We are in for a treat. I know I say that every month, but every month we are. Our keynote speaker this evening, first and foremost, is my good friend and a religious science practitioner at North Hollywood Church of Religious Science, where I am also a practitioner. So I have a deep love and respect, and she is a mentor to many of us there. Kathleen is an Emmy award-winning three-time nominee actress. She is star of stage and screen, widely known for roles on All My Children, Frasier, and many other TV shows, stage and productions, and films. A certified Labyrinth facilitator, and as I mentioned, religious science practitioner, these meditative walking paths can lead you to the heart of your own healing. Her talk title, The Gift of the Labyrinth, is an additional spiritual tool, and she will explain to us its history, significance, relation to science of mind, new thought, sacred geometry, and how it assists the expansion of consciousness to improve our daily lives. She is also going to be accompanied by my other good friend and another spiritual practitioner at North Hollywood Church of Religious Science, Centers for Spiritual Living, Dan Rose, who is also my mother's practitioner, who this man has saved me hours and hours in hospital rooms because he would go sit with my mother when I had to be at work. So I have a debt of gratitude and love for this man beyond what you would know. He is a musician and has a Bachelor of Science degree in music, and he is playing this kind of a new instrument in the history of instruments, a halo handpan. Is that correct? And maybe he can give us a little more information about it at some point, or we can just listen to it and know that that's what we're supposed to hear, is the experience of it. So without further ado, I would like to bring both of them up, my beautiful friends, Kathleen Noone and Dan Rose.
First of all, there I am. That was magic. First of all, I want to just say thank you to Dina and to Frank for all your help in making this possible. And we tried a year ago, yes, to bring the Labyrinth here that we have over at our spiritual center, but I was here with Jan Eddy, and we couldn't fit it in here. It just didn't, the levels of the floor didn't work well with the Labyrinth. So we've been trying to figure out a way to do it, and tonight we're going to try it. This is a night of adventures. We're learning new things with my friend Kathy Bartels, who runs my website, but she is also, oh God, thank God she knows computers. I don't. So she's been a great help. And I also want to take this moment to thank the Labyrinth team over at North Hollywood. None of this could have happened without their assistance, and that includes Jan Eddy, who is sitting here tonight. Jeff Whitman couldn't make it, and nor could Suze Webster. But without this team of people, believe me, none of this would have been happening. That's for sure. So, to get on with the evening, I just want to explain some of it to you as to how we are going to proceed this evening. But one of the first things I want to share with you is Albert Einstein said once, one of the most beautiful things we can experience is the mysterious. It's the source of all true art and science. Well, let me tell you, one of the things I have definitely experienced on the Labyrinth is the mysterious. But what it has given birth to in me has been greater insight, direction, helps still my mind when I have too much chatter and I feel upset. And then through that calmness that comes to me, I feel comforted. Now why? I feel comforted because, as you will see in some of the pictures I'm going to show you, I feel in the labyrinth when you walk it, you are being held in what I refer to as a chalice of receptivity. And in that chalice, you are protected. And I feel that strength, I feel that protection, which then enables me to do what? Well, it enables me to expand my consciousness. Why? Because the labyrinth addresses both the left brain and the right brain at the same time. You follow a path that is organized. It looks a little circuitous, but it is organized. It leads you directly to the center, and it will lead you directly out. In that path, though, because it is set up through sacred geometry, it brings you harmony, calmness. The design itself is set up to make sure you can have a fuller experience of being in harmony. And when the mind is quieted, it begins to expand, and then the images, answers to your questions, concerns that you have, problems that you are experiencing, come to another level because they are not agitating you anymore, because you are physically working it out as you walk the labyrinth. And as you are walking, that energy becomes dissipated, and then the mind is beginning to be able to slow down, and you are then able to come to your point of inspiration. Now, the way this evening's going to unfold is this. I'm going to give you a little explanation of the history of the labyrinth, and we're dealing specifically with the Chartres, the labyrinth, in Chartres, France. It is an 11-circuit labyrinth. That means that there are 11 circles by the time you get to the center. There are 9 circuits. There are 7. Its history comes from the Celtics and the Greeks. And they date back to over 4,000 years old that we know of right now. But this is just now. There may be more. So I'm going to explain to you its history, and this is Chartres Cathedral right here, our first. Now, the interesting thing about Chartres Cathedral, hi, Dan, the entire Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris can fit inside this cathedral. This is how large it is. So would you go to the next slide, Kath? This was the picture at night. You can see how it towers over the rooftops here around the city. Now, the other thing I want to show you here is, oh God, technical equipment, don't you love it? This area here is considered the north entrance. This north entrance here, during the 10th, 11th century, Chartres was considered this extraordinary hall of learning. People would come from all around the world to study there because they brought in master teachers from all around the world, dealing in the esoteric sciences. So what happened, this hall of learning began to grow, and why it was here was because during the Crusades, people no longer wanted to travel to Jerusalem because of the Crusades, marauders on the road. So what they did is they picked certain sites and demarcated them as sacred sites to do a pilgrimage to. So that you could, again, in that process of pilgrimage, you come to a deeper understanding within yourself. So all the initiates in that school were to enter in the north porticos right there. Now, Kath, would you show the next photograph of it? I think that's the, yes, this is it more closely. Now, the thing that they discovered recently, and I think this is so cool, they were refurbishing the outside of the cathedral. In that refurbishment, they discovered paint chips. So they think at one point, Chartres Cathedral was painted. So what they do now during the season of illumination, I leave Wednesday to go to France and to be a part of that experience. What they do is they try to then show these 3 porticos here, in what they think it was painted in at that time. The next photograph. And this is what we think it was. Isn't that extraordinary? Isn't that extraordinary? I never knew that. Now to think, when you look at all these churches, sometimes you may be able to imagine that maybe they were painted and these are some of the colors that were a part of them. Well, what happened about this particular school, of course, the cathedral burned down June 10th, 1194. And cathedrals were doing that a lot because they used to be made out of wood. So what happened? People come in with the candles, they forget, because churches became the gathering place for the poor in the evening. So they would come in with their farm animals, everything, and be in the church and be able to sleep there. But of course, they'd leave the lamps burning and poof. Well, this happened in 1194, and the cathedral had burned down to the ground. This left the community of Chartres bereft because they adored this cathedral. It was the symbol of Mary. Mary was the intercessor to God for all the things that people were praying for. And they felt very close to it, and there was a deep attachment to this at church. So when this last burning occurred, absolute rubble. But the interesting thing that occurred then was 2 days later, a veil that was given to the church by Charlemagne's grandson, Emperor the Bald. The veil itself was considered a veil that Mary wore during the birth of Christ. And it was given to the church in honor of this, its reverence towards Mary. Well, 2 priests happened to be going through the rubble in the lower crypt, and they found the veil intact. And they brought it up, and this became the rallying cry around which they were going to now rebuild the church. Now, the veil is carbon dated back to the 1st century. Consider it a totem. There's no way of knowing if she wore it or not, but consider it a totem. So what happened is they brought this veil up, rallying cry. Every duke, duchess, lord, lady, serf, maid, servant of any kind became a part of the process that would go down to the quarry, help load up the carts with these rocks, and then they would send them up to the hill where the masons would get a hold of them and build the church. So everyone became involved in this sacred rebuilding of this sacred spot. So what happened is the church, obviously, was built. In this church, they built a labyrinth. Now, yeah. Oh, this is the veil. So I want to have the opportunity to see it. So the next one, Kath. See, the magic of technology, I love it. This is what the labyrinth looks like in the cathedral. Now, normally, I don't know why, but they keep chairs over the labyrinth during the week, and the only time it's open to the public is on a Friday. When I go on this particular group, we are going to be able to have a walk of the labyrinth during the evening hours, so that would be a lovely experience. But what happened was this. The architecture of this cathedral is really extraordinary. And the way a lot of it came about, because you have to remember, the only thing they had to work with was a compass. That instrument, a compass. And what they would do is they would lay out some plaster on a slab. They would draw in their designs, take charcoal, dust it over it, blow it off, and that's what they would give to the builders to see how they could build. Imagine doing that today. That blows my mind. So what the master teacher would have all these initiates that I told you about in the beginning that would enter into the north porticos for their schooling and education. He would ask them to write out what we refer to as an affirmation, okay? But they would usually do it in the form of poetry. Now, the master teacher would then take that poetry, break it down, break down the letters to numbers. The numbers were then given to the master architects, and the architects would put those numbers, those words that became numbers, into the architecture itself of the building. So that on this labyrinth itself, you can see right now it's 4 quadrants. In this quadrant here, there are 4 of them, and they spell out Maria est assumpta. Maria is ascended. In different areas in here, the pathways of this. Could you go to the next slide? As you see these different circuitous routes of the labyrinth, some of them spell out the word Anna, who is the mother of Mary. Some of them spelled out the word Jesus. Some of them spell out Joseph. And you will also notice this. Notice I said to you it looked like a chalice of receptivity? That's where I got the idea. Because all these right here are lunations. In other words, cusps, cups, half cups. And they think that had to do with the cycles of the moon. That's why I said to yourself, you feel you're embraced, you're held in this. Now, the interesting thing about this, there are 55 of these half cups on the left-hand side. 55 spells out the word ecclesia. Now, in the Webster's Dictionary, that means community. In the ancient Greek, means you're summoned into. So what are you summoned into? 57 over here spells out the word divine, divine. So you are being summoned as you walk the labyrinth to your greater divine nature. As you walk it, as you simply walk it. So you find that as you do it, the left side deals a lot with our earthly matters. In other words, what's on my brain? What am I trying to work out? Do I have a problem? Do I need to set an intention? That's what you start out here with, and you make a left-hand turn, and then you start into your walk, which brings you back and forth in this circuitous route, but eventually you're moving more and more over to this side here, which brings you into divine inspiration. And then when you come to this part right here, you will walk it into the center. Now, one of the things I always found interesting about this when I was studying it and bringing it to what I understood in science of mind, Ernest Holmes believes that we all live in 4 kingdoms of consciousness. The first kingdom, which I equate to this first quarter here, this is the kingdom where we think we are victims. Everything is done to us. We have no say. It's usually tribal consciousness. And the only way to get out of that and move into the second quadrant here, so that we're victim here, here is now everything is done by me, is you have to give up blame, shame, and regret, which gives you the freedom then to move into that consciousness where you say, okay, everything is now being done by me, period. Now, in order to move from that one, how many times have I spent my time in thinking everything I have to do has to be done by me or it's not going to get done, right? Thank God I've moved from some of that. But this one, as you move into the third one, was everything is done as me. In order to move into that, you got to give up control. You see? And then the last one, everything is done through me. But in order to land there, you've got to surrender. Now, Western culture has a lot of difficulty dealing with the word surrender. Because we're built on might is right, this is what we do, we're going to be strong, we're going to get moved through. When the reality is, if you really look at surrender, what is it really asking us to do? And that is allow. Allow ourselves to let go and let that divine inspiration within us begin to blossom and heal and expand to something so much bigger. And that's what I find is the gift of the labyrinth. So as we move through these different quadrants here, we come to the center rose petal. You walk into what is referred to as the center rose petal. Now, in ancient times, Kath, if you'll shift it that way, in ancient times, what this was thought of as originally was that this was the mineral, plant, animal, human, angelic, and that which is unknown. But let's get back to Chartres now. Chartres, in the 11th century, had the mystery school. And in the mystery school, they equated these rose petals with the Lord's Prayer. Now, you have in front of you a small piece of paper. So you can keep that with you, and that explains it, and it lines it up with each of the phrases in the Lord's Prayer. Because they felt that the Lord's Prayer was given to us by Jesus as principles to live by. So that the first one, faith, our Father who art in heaven, announcement of your faith. Being willing to stand in the fact that you have faith. Holy is your name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. The second principle, again, surrender. But again, I'm asking you, it's the sense of surrender, of allowing, not giving up. You don't have to give up anything. You allow. You allow this inspiration that's coming to you from faith to work in your life here. On earth as it is in heaven, service. God so expanded itself in its creativity. Remember all the pictures of the Hubble Space Telescope? That kind of expansion, that kind of bigness. And in that bigness, it created us. As it created us, in service to us, it gave us all the inspiration to build on, faith and surrender. If I allow God's Spirit to work through me, I then have the opportunity then to be of service to myself and then to others. And you see where my hand's going? It's the infinity sign. So there is this kind of infinity of working together with Spirit. So if I am building my life on the principles of faith, service, and faith, surrender, service, then of course I'm going to step into abundance, which is give us this day our daily bread. But it's not give from the point of supplication. Again, it's growing out of building my life on these first three principles. Then I get to go to, let me see where I am. I don't have my glasses. Then I get to forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. What are we really asking for in forgiveness? Freedom. Freedom from our own accumulated hurts and disappointments. Because we have no dominion over anybody else. But we do have the opportunity to experience more freedom by letting go of our own holding on to the agendas and the hurts. And once we do that, then we bring ourselves to overcoming. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil or error. What are we asking ourselves to do here? Deliver us from constantly repeating limiting beliefs, error thinking, and that which does not serve our highest good. So these are strong principles to build our lives on, and then as we do, we come into the center, and where do we wind up? In that center of the heart of love. So when you do, what we're going to do tonight is, that's why I give you all these little, what I refer to as finger labyrinths, so that you can experience the labyrinth by walking through it. And as we do this, Dan is going to be playing the halo for you to experience this process for yourself. So what I would ask you to do is this. You're going to come up with an intention, something you need to work on, some answer you're looking for, some sense of direction that you're looking for. And then you will be able to ask this and then do your walk, because the labyrinth can address three areas in the realm of spiritual psychology. And that is healing on the psycho-soul level, Give you an example of that. A woman had a best friend who was in the hospital dying of AIDS, and they thought maybe he'd have 3 to 4 more weeks left. And she was intuitively inspired to go and see her friend in the hospital. And when she got to the hospital, he said, "Thank you, you're here. I need you to take me to the Labyrinth. I want to get out of this bed. I want you to get me to the Labyrinth." She put him in the wheelchair and she brought him to the Labyrinth. And she wheeled him through the Labyrinth all the way to the center, and she wheeled him back out again. And when he got to the entrance of the Labyrinth, he said, "Thank you. I needed to say goodbye to my body." And at that point, 2 days later, he was able to pass. The second one is self-knowledge. I've had people come on the Labyrinth, and they start walking, and I can see them getting agitated, getting themselves all worked up and sweat and everything, and turn around and storm off the Labyrinth. So, of course, I go up to them and I say, "Can I be of assistance in any way?" And they will say, "Well, I started walking the Labyrinth and realized I started remembering my sister who is dead, and I've never forgiven her." I said, "Oh, okay, well, that's a good place to start, good place to begin your work." So it gives people the opportunity. I've had some practitioner friends of ours who stepped on the Labyrinth and said, "Boy, I'm here and I'm thinking about my brother." And I said, "Really? Is there a question maybe you need to ask your brother?" She thought for a minute and she said, "Yep." And she went back and asked her brother and began to work out the situation of looking after her elderly mother. And the last one is direction. There was a man in San Francisco who had been in part of the corporate world. I know, Luis, you know about that. And what happened is he didn't really want to be doing that. He felt he was an artist, but he was afraid to leave the corporate world. So what he started to do was walk the Labyrinth at the Episcopal Church in San Francisco. And he started to walk that, and for about a period of 6 months, he used it to build up his courage and his strength so he'd be able to leave his corporate job. And at the end of that 6 months, he did leave the corporate job. He's now considered one of the best artists in San Francisco. So, I mean, it can give you that direction. There is a practitioner I work with right now. He said, "The reason I'm a practitioner is because when I was walking the Labyrinth, I got a clear message that that would be my path." So did it. So all sorts of avenues can open up for yourself and give you some answers if you're willing, and I have to say brave, to receive the answer. Because it may mean you have to make some shifts in your life. But remember what I said early on about being held in a chalice of receptivity? You are in the center of the rose petal. You are in the full, complete labyrinth. You are held in a chalice of receptivity. So whatever changes you are planning to make in your life, my experience has been you will be fully supported. It may not look in the way that you are wanting it to look, but therein is its gift. It will bring you to something new, more expansive. As we were looking at those pictures from the universe. I want to tell you a little side story here. I've been down to the Science Center, and they have the showing of the Hubble spacecraft, right? In it, they showed us, they decided to move the Hubble around in the Orion Nebula. And as they moved it around or behind this gaseous cloud, you came upon an entire nursery of stars, baby stars. And they were all held in this beautiful, transparent sack that looked like a womb. And I thought to myself, my God, the microcosm and the macrocosm. We're here and we're witnessing it. And that's... I'm talking millions of miles, millions of stars caught in the nebula. And actually, that's perfect timing because we're in the process. So, I ask you all to take out your finger labyrinths. We're going to spend... Here you go. What we're going to do is we're going to use the finger ladder, state your intention. How you would like whatever is on your mind to unfold, but asking for divine inspiration. Thank you. Asking for divine inspiration as to how to let what you want unfold. If you're talking about a healed relationship, whatever it is that you're after, bring it to the labyrinth. Believe me, it is the strength to hold you. So what you're going to do is give you a minute here to state your intention. Then you're going to take your finger, if you go, yeah, thank you. Then you're going to take your finger and you're going to enter the labyrinth from here, this opening, and you're going to follow it. I can't get my hand to be steady. You're going to follow that. And you notice, see it goes a little circuitous routes? But it will lead you the whole way. If you get lost, if your finger slips, here's a great question to ask yourself. Where do I feel lost in my own life? Where do I feel I've slipped up in my own life? Use the labyrinth as a metaphor for your life because it's there to assist you. And you'll learn to ask the right questions the more you use it to help and assist yourself. Okay, so Dan, if you wouldn't mind starting us in some music. And as you are ready, now, as you do the labyrinth, as you follow the path, if any insights come to you and you need to write it down, I have a whole box right here filled with, there are some pens and some note paper. You can take it out, write, use it. When you're finished, just rip it out so somebody else who may need some note paper can use it too. So we want to take this next 10 minutes and have you be in the experience of the labyrinth and allow it through this exercise of using the finger to be that guide to your mind and your subconscious to begin to work in that place of harmony, to come and give you support on the levels of which you need it. This is an individual process. It's not about competition. It's about cooperation. It's about allowing the inner spirit within you to live, to expand, and to grow. Enjoy your walk, finger walk. If you have questions about anything, just raise your hand and I'll get to you. here told me that her finger kept getting lost. Keep going. You could take a pen, and sometimes that distance with the pen will help you move. Yes, it helped her. Good going. Sometimes that distance, a pen or pencil. You don't have to let the pen, on click out, but you can use that to help follow the path if you need to. If your finger is too big, mine is too. Yes. Do you want a pen? Getting a message, but it's not settling in you. You can go back and walk it again with your finger, or if you want, just go directly to the center rose petal, and that center will calm you down, and see which petal you are drawn to, and then therein may be an answer for you. Questions that came up. The pen is a good solution. Thank you very much. Great. See, this is good to discover. I'm so used to just walking it, and this is the first time we've tried it with a group, so this is great. You're teaching me something. I'm loving it. Thank you. Are there any questions that you have right now? For me, no. Wasn't that music lovely on the halo? Thank you, Dan, very, very much. Okay, Kathy, would you just put the flyer up? So we at North Hollywood would certainly like to invite you on the 26th and 27th of September, either day, both days, whichever, to come, and you can walk it now. We put a canvas labyrinth down in the sanctuary, and you can walk it and get what that experience is on Friday night, 7 to 9, and then on Saturday from 11:30 to 2, along with walking the labyrinth, we will have a group of wonderful energy healers. Louise is one of our healers who are there so you can participate walking the labyrinth, and then either before or after take advantage of a healing session, an energy healing session with one of the healers. And many people have found that extraordinarily helpful. One of the things I would just like to finish with is that John O'Donoghue, an Irish poet, stated that sometimes the famine in our blessings is because we are leading and living the life that is expected of us rather than the one we love. So I just invite you in your processes now to allow yourself to come to a deeper place within you where that is that love in your life that is expressed. And once it shows you where that is, the labyrinth, if you walk it enough, will begin to guide you through that process of letting that unfold. I've witnessed in my own life, and I just thank you all this evening for allowing myself and Dan and Kath and Jan from the Labyrinth group to be able to share this experience with you. And I hope you can take something for your heart to make it richer, for your life to make it fuller, and for your physical healing in whatever way you need it. Thank you.
All right. I just would love us to give some more love and appreciation to Kathleen Noone for this beautiful, beautiful labyrinth walk, and to Dan Rose for the halo pen.